And then I'm going to record it. It's 11 o'clock. So let me change this to make you the host. And you should be host now.
Got it.
Okay. So you should have the security feature on the bottom.
Yep.
And that it should be set the way we're recording now, but it should be set the way we discussed.
Okay.
Okay, so it's all yours.
Thanks, Craig.
Okay, thanks. Text me if you need anything, but I'll be on a call, but text me if you need anything.
Will do. Hi, all. It's 11 o'clock, and this is a bylaws committee meeting for CECD2. I'm going to give it a few minutes to see if there are additional people who want to join. Hi, all. As I just said, for those of you who are just joining us, this is the CECD2 bylaws committee meeting scheduled to start at 11. We have a few people just joining us, so I'm going to give it a few more minutes just to wait. We'll give it 2 more minutes to see if we have some additional folks coming. I'll also just let everybody know that this is a working business meeting, so there is no public speaking session. It's not a calendar meeting of the council. So we have some council members on who can speak to the issues, but it does not, this meeting does not have a public speaker session. Our next calendar meeting is on our CECD2 website. All right, and I'm going to bring up our bylaws and share my screen in a few moments. Okay, why don't we get going? If the, I'll, I'll say this, does anybody here, you can, unmute yourself or raise your hand, council members, if you need access to the bylaws, or if you have them, they're on our website. The last bylaws were approved on January 12th, 21. There are some ministerial things that need to change in our upcoming bylaws, to update our bylaws. The primary one is that we have 12 members on the council now, not 11, and throughout in multiple sections in our bylaws, it references that we need a vote of 6 as a majority of 11. Obviously, we now need a vote of 7 as a majority of 12. And so we would update the bylaws in all of those ways. I don't see that as requiring a great deal of discussion, but assuming there's no objections to that, I will update the bylaws that I will put before the council to vote, because this process requires a vote of the entire council. So we'll require a vote of 7 out of the 12 of us to approve updated bylaws. And that process requires us to put the proposed bylaws before the council one calendar meeting prior to the vote on which we would approve the new bylaws. So the process takes, at a minimum, 2 months, but generally takes a little bit longer. So my question to other council members present is if they have any other issues that they would like to put on our agenda for this bylaws meeting. And seeing none, can you, Sabina, since you have your camera on, can you unmute yourself? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you can't unmute yourself. Okay. I am going to.
No, I can't. Yeah, I'm unmuted. You can hear me, right?
I think council members should be able to unmute themselves.
Yep, that's good.
Gavin,
Yes.
able to unmute. Sonal, you're giving me a thumbs down. Are you able to unmute yourself?
It's Sonal, and yes, I am now unmuted.
Great. So I'll repeat my question. Are there any issues which any of the council members wish to put on the agenda in terms of the bylaws committee meeting?
I would like to amend the bylaws at some point to incorporate the code of conduct in D210.
Incorporate code of conduct. Anyone else? No. Okay, I am going to admit an additional person into the meeting. There are, I'll scroll down in the bylaws if you give me a minute.
If you can share your screen, Maud, so we can all look at the same thing.
I will be doing that in a moment.
And I have to go back off camera for a bit, but I'll be here.
Okay. Let's see. There are 2 things that have come up in from various suggestions from council members. And give me one moment to get, we have several versions of these. Hold on a moment. Sorry for the delay. Hold on one second. Okay, there are 2 substantive changes that have come up. One is whether or not the council should have 1 public speaking sessions or 2 public speaking sessions. My suggestion would be that we go to 1 public speaking session. That public speaking session needs to come after the discussion of the resolutions because and prior to voting on the resolutions, because the members of the public, particularly our fellow parents in District 2, often come and have the right to speak to resolutions that are being voted on. So that public speaking session is most important to come after discussion of resolutions, but prior to the vote. On our current order of business, that would be items 8, 9, and 10. So I'm just going to repeat that this is not a public speaking session. Now we will have a public speaking session at the calendar meeting at which we would vote on these bylaws. This is a working meeting of CECD2. So that's one. The other thing that has arisen is a question of whether or not we want to move to co-presidents. All of the officer positions can be co-president, co-vice president, co-treasurer, and co-secretary. Given that these are volunteer positions and working people sometimes have limited time, let me see here. We might want to consider having co-positions for officer positions. Various councils do it differently. Gavin.
Thank you. I muted myself and then I couldn't unmute myself again. What's the rationale behind eliminating the second public speaking session?
We have there, well, actually I should add, in addition to, if we're gonna have non-council members raise their hand, you can raise your hand, but this isn't a public speaking session and we're gonna run it as a working business meeting. This, as I said, excuse me?
I said it's a committee meeting, but I think she heard you, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a bylaws meeting, so there are two actually issues that I think are going to come up on the bylaws with regard to running an efficient meeting and allowing us to have time to do both a calendar meeting and a working business meeting. Several council members have expressed concern about how long the meeting goes and the fact that if we combine our calendar and business meeting, we need to have enough time to run it actually a proper business meeting at the end. What we have had at District 2 in the past is especially when we were running hybrid meetings or fully remote meetings, is a lot of non-District 2 folks coming to weigh in, which certainly legally people have the right to do, but I also think that it would be a fair statement to make that the council, because it's a District 2 council, is particularly interested in hearing from District 2 parents.
But we're not running hybrid or remote meetings anymore.
And if we want to hear from those parents, I think it would be good to allow for parents to have slightly longer speaking time if they have something to speak to with regard to the resolution. And I think I have never seen, I have rarely seen, I should say, not never, but rarely seen a public speaking session where the majority of speakers had come to address anything other than an issue that was on the resolution. So I think since resolutions are what primarily brings parents out and what they choose to address, that we should give parents time to address that. And a way to do that is to have one speaking session in between the discussion of the resolution and the vote on the resolution.
I totally agree. Otherwise, we waste too much time.
Sonal, would you like to address the incorporation of the code of conduct that you proposed?
I'd like to go back to this for a second. So I believe strongly that there should be 2 public speaking sessions. I think that allows for more parents. We're giving them one opportunity to come live once a month. That if there is a later time that might work better for other families, that we keep that second public session open. I have no objection to moving the public's first one closer to the resolutions. I think that makes sense. With respect to holding 2, I think that's important. As far as our working business meeting is concerned, I do think a lot of the business that we can handle at the working business meeting can also be handled outside of that meeting. And it's significantly more important to me that we create space and time for community engagement at our live meetings than the business that much of which can be handled while we are not taking up parents' time. Also, this is a committee meeting, so as far as I understand it, members that are parents and community members that are here should in fact be allowed to speak. I don't understand what the objection is. There's only one parent here who would like to say something. I think we should give her the opportunity to speak.
The president, if you look at the precedent for our past committee working meetings, we have always conducted working meetings as committee meetings for community members. And we're going to continue to do the same at this meeting.
I don't know exactly why that's the case, though. We don't know that that's the precedent that was created. It's not by law. There is one parent on this meeting who would like to speak.
There's more than one person on this meeting who is a non-council member.
Sonia would like to speak, and she's more than welcome to raise her hand as well.
Does anyone, Sonal, I asked you if you wanted to address your suggestion of D210 code of conduct being incorporated into our bylaws. Do you wish to address it substantively or not?
I do wish to address it substantively, but I am saying something that you were legitimately ignoring and saying precedent, and I
haven't ignored it. I've addressed it substantively, and I've told you what I'm chairing this committee. I'm running this committee. If you have nothing further to say other than on that subject, we're going to move on.
Okay, so Lupe, you're welcome to send to me whatever you would like to state on this meeting, and I'm happy to repeat it. As far as the incorporation of D210, I think it can be a simple mention of the regulation that's already in place as a requirement under our bylaws for all council members to comply. This meeting was scheduled relatively quickly without enough notice for me to prepare anything to present as a council member on this committee. So I'm going to reserve the right to do that and think more about what language I would want to propose specifically, but I'm not going to do that right now.
Okay, great. I will briefly address substantively my concerns with D210. For those of you who are interested, I've written about this along with another council member. And I think D210 is poorly drafted and flawed. It doesn't follow basic due process. As it is operating right now within the New York City public school system, there's an equity officer who fields complaints and then reaches out to sitting parents and tells them to come in for an interview. We have had a situation where that equity officer has reached out to parents, told them that they must show up for an interview alone on the basis of a complaint that is not shared with that parent, and telling the parent without any legal basis that I can find or think of, that the parent doesn't have the right to bring legal counsel or anybody else to the meeting. I don't think any of those things would withstand a legal challenge. I think they're inappropriate. I think it's overstepping on the DOE's part. I think it's meant to silence parents who are out of step with some of the diktats coming from Central. And furthermore, if that process is substantiated or moves forward in some way, there is an equity council that then passes judgment on the issue that had been raised. And the New York City public school system has to date refused to identify the people who sit on that equity council and has refused to identify how those people were selected. So for all of those reasons, I would not be in favor of including D210. All of the suggestions that are coming up at this meeting, I will put forward on our calendar meeting next, and that includes Sonal's D210 suggestion, the co-president's suggestion, and the reduction of to one speaking session to address the resolution. So I will put those three proposals forward. Sonal, please feel free to send me any language you want. Otherwise, I will just incorporate D210 code of conduct in the bylaws.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I hear your objections. I've heard them. And as of today, D210 is the law. So if any council members want to raise legal challenges to the existing law, they can do so outside of this council. But I see absolutely no reason why an existing operative regulation of the chancellor should not also be complied with by the current sitting members of this council.
The reason would be if a majority of our council members think that it's an inappropriate regulation and shouldn't be incorporated.
That is not where we are right now. So thank you for sharing again all of your objections, but my suggestion still stands and I'm happy to raise it with the
I
council.
wasn't resharing my objections. I was explaining process. If a majority of our council chooses to vote to not include it in our
That's
bylaws.
fine. Yeah, that I understand, Maud. I was talking about the sort of the litany before that, but that's fine. You can note it on the notes and we can move on.
Are there any other suggestions other than a change to the speaking, a change to co-presidencies, and a change to D210?
I think we should make clear that when a committee holds a committee meeting, the parent engagement is allowed. If the committee wants to hold a specific working business meeting, that where it informs the community on that it is not going to be given engagement time, we should make that very, very clear in advance. I have participated in a number of committees in the past where I have spoken, and there has been no clear indication that this is a working business meeting where parents will not be allowed to speak. So for this committee and every committee moving forward, that is something that the council needs to address and to confirm and clarify.
For the most part, I agree with you on that, Sonal, but I will just say I've participated in many, many committee meetings, some of which have public speaking sessions and some of which do not. Our administrative assistant hiring committee is a working business meeting that doesn't have public speaking. Our CEC bylaws is a working meeting that doesn't have public speaking. Various admissions committee meetings, students with disabilities meetings, and various zoning and planning committee meetings have all been ones in which there have been public speaking sessions. And I have participated in all of them. So I do think there's a clear difference, and I think it's reasonable to note that. Any other additional items?
I just want to say, in the email, it says there's no public speaking session today for the
Thank you,
committee meeting.
Sabina. I
It
had
says
asked,
so right in the email.
thank you, Sabina. I had asked for that to be included and I didn't recall if it was or not. So thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate it.
I'd like to include in the bylaws that if committees such as, admissions and diversity committee, I know has members of the public, like non-council members who are members of the committee. I think if committees are going to have members who are not council members, they should have an open and transparent solicitation for membership in those committees. And, we as council members should know who's on those committees.
Is there any committee at which there's someone who you currently don't know who's on the committee?
I don't think people have ever known who's on the admissions and diversity committee, other than maybe the chairs of that committee. And I think the process through, if we're going to invite the members of the public to serve on the committee and have pretty substantial roles in it, we should have an open and transparent solicitation process for that.
I'm always in favor of open and transparent. I chaired a dual language committee 2 terms ago, which we had non-council member parents on, and they were very, very helpful and knowledgeable. In fact, one of whom was a parent who was a foreign language, a second language teacher, who had in the private school system, not in the public school system, but had a lot of expertise, and it was very helpful to have her on. So I think it provides a lot of benefit. If there's no other suggestions, I will compile these 3 suggestions, forward them to all council members, and then have them prepared for potential votes on, not for potential votes, rather for review at the next calendar meeting, which would then lead to a potential vote at a subsequent calendar meeting. Anything further from anyone? Nope. Great to see you all, and we will be in touch. We might need another bylaws committee, we might not, if there are no objections, but I suspect there might be one more before the final vote, given how past bylaws usually take a matter of a few months. And if there's nothing further, we might have clocked in the shortest CECD2 meeting ever, so we can all congratulate ourselves on that. Thank you all for attending, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.